when Mantra was going through the downturn in 2022 and 2023, I didn't pay myself for like almost 2 years, and I've done that multiple times. I've never taken a salary, right? Multiple times, right? It's part of the game as an entrepreneur, and I'm always happy to do that. I've sold all my possessions multiple times to be able to support what I'm working on.
How much of your wealth currently was extracted from Mantra?
Very little.
Come on, JP. How is this not a scam? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like you're a totally narrative-driven token. You know, what do you have to say to that? Hi, my name is Lawrence Linker. I'm an investor, builder, and executive in the digital assets industry. When I first joined about 5 years ago, I had a lot to learn, and I found that I learned best by just having casual conversations with people actively working in the industry. I've had the pleasure of meeting some extraordinarily talented folks in that time, and the Coinversations podcast is my invitation to you to join me in these conversations so that we can both continue learning. Of course, nothing said by me or any of my guests is financial advice, and you must do your own research before making any investment decisions. Today, in what I would like to call a very special episode of the Coinversations podcast, I'm going to be talking to JP Mullin, CEO and co-founder of Mantra. So Mantra is one of the most successful protocols in crypto, and their own token was up until about a week ago a top 20 token in the space. So just tremendous success there. And they about 3 days ago had a crash, 90% crash of their price. They went from about a $6 billion market cap to around 500 million, which is, you know, of course, still very high. I dig in with JP on what happened there and try to come up with my own understanding of the space. He is, you know, quite under the gun at the moment, but a lot of the other interviews that I've seen with him so far, I've been, you know, really aggressively, you know, trying to pin fault on him, positioning him as he must be some kind of a liar. There's something that he's not telling us. I have to say, I don't feel like he's coming across that way to me, but this is where, you know, you as a viewer really need to use your own judgment in how you read the situation. There's going to be people who look at this conversation and say, Lawrence, you're being naive. You know, JP is obviously a, you know, absolute criminal. And look, that's your right. You have the right to, you know, view this through any lens that you want, but that's not how I'm seeing this. In any case, without further ado, let's go into it. I hope you enjoy the conversation. JP, how you doing, man?
Hanging in there. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
You know, JP, I have some stuff going on my end as well, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to feel like my own problems maybe, you know, not so bad.
Yeah. It's been a tough 72, you know, 80 hours, whatever it's been at this stage. But we're hanging in there. Tired, but you know, still full of resolve. So
I'm happy to hear that, man. Are you taking
yeah.
care of yourself?
Well, I slept in a bed for the first time last night, for in 3 days or 4 days.
Okay.
um, for a little bit, maybe got 5.5 hours of sleep, so that was needed. Um, but yeah, I mean, to be honest, adrenaline's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I, you know, just zero appetite. Um, I think I've just been surviving on basically coffee. And it's just, you know, when you're in the heat of the moment, it's just we got shit to fix and focus on, and that's really all that matters. So pretty crazy.
Well, I would say you also matter, JP. So I guess just keep that in mind,
Well,
okay? It's not going to help if you crash out,
yeah,
okay, buddy?
appreciate that, man. I'll do my best to take care of myself as well.
Okay, good stuff. So look, JP, I want to get right into this. I want to start with setting some context. I think that's really important just for us as having a one-on-one conversation, as well as for the people watching this. You know, they want to know what's our relationship, what's the kind of
Hmm.
context and background of this call. So first of all, how do we know each other?
mean, I think it's really from that WhatsApp, the crypto WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
And which has a lot of really, it's mainly Asia-based crypto WhatsApp group, Hong Kong, Singapore, and has a lot of you know builders, investors, and just kind of influential people in the crypto space in that in that jurisdiction, in that area. And I think we got connected like early or mid last year, um, through that. And I think we've had a call or two, and that's about it.
We've
And
never
just stayed in contact. Hasn't Yeah, it
we've
hasn't
actually
been.
never had a call.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I thought we chatted one time.
We've never had a one-on-one.
Oh, maybe it was just trading WhatsApps then.
Yeah, it's just all on WhatsApp. Actually, we've exchanged a few messages on WhatsApp, and I
Yeah,
saw you very briefly at your event in Hong Kong during Consensus.
that's right.
So you were
That's
talking to
right.
some folks. I meant to come and say hi to you, but you were engaged. And fantastic event, by the way.
Thank you.
The food, setting, everything was very nice. But no, we actually haven't had a chance to talk. So this is literally our first time, our first
Yeah.
time
Okay.
speaking. Um, and then, okay, man, let me also share, just so you're aware of the mindset I'm coming into this with, and I want to reveal
Mm.
some of my personal biases, okay? So
Mm-hmm.
I have been following you in the WhatsApp group, but also you on LinkedIn, and you've been posting
Mm.
very, very regularly. A lot of value-based communication from you on LinkedIn about long-term thinking in the crypto space, the desire to build meaningfully in the crypto space, and not look at short-term market fluctuations and trends. And this is
Mm.
an ethos that I connect with very deeply, and so have
Mm.
been looking forward to connecting with you for a long time. It's kind of bizarre that this is
Mm.
actually our first chance to actually have a conversation,
Yeah.
but I really like what you've had to say, and I'm connecting with you on that. I also I'm coming in with a bias of, you know, I have had the privilege of knowing some of the, quite well, some of the most successful people in our industry. And
Mm.
I've seen this kind of thing happen before where something, at some point, we fly a little close to the sun and then,
Mm.
we have a tough time. And,
Mm.
my perspective is I've seen different people go through this in different ways. And I kind of have a sense for the headspace that you're in right now and
Mm.
and the sort of social and political dynamics at play with the broader community and stuff like that, okay? And my
Mm.
bias in this is that genuinely, I have to say, I feel like I'm rooting for you. I want to
Appreciate
dig
that.
into this a little bit more because I also know, I don't know you that well. I don't understand
Mm.
this situation as well as I hope to by the end of this call, or as well as
Mm-hmm.
I will as it continues to unpack. But I want to
Yep.
share both for the benefit, for your benefit, and for the benefit of anyone listening. I feel like as of right now, I'm rooting for you, dude. Okay, because
Appreciate it.
I think that there is this undeniable dynamic in our industry where you know in the last 10 years, one of the ways that people, entrepreneurs, creative people, business people could really get rich was in crypto. And
Mm.
there's a lot of people who have gotten very, very wealthy in crypto, but there's a lot more people who haven't. And
Mm.
for those people who haven't, especially if you've been around for 2, 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5 market cycles, and you don't have a lot to show for it, there is going to be this anger from these
Mm.
people and this level of
Mm.
schadenfreude that comes out at someone who has done well. And
Mm.
now that this is their chance to say, oh, yeah, fuck this guy. Look, he's a crook, blah, blah, all of that, right? And
Yeah.
so there's some of that there. I want to name it. I'm naming it now, and I want to
Mm.
address that directly. At the same
Mm.
time, I do want to investigate everything that's happened with you. I want to challenge you on some of the
Absolutely.
value-based communication and ideas that you've shared on LinkedIn, and really dig into
Yep.
that and see if we can come to a place of truth there. Okay, sound good?
Sounds good. Yeah.
All right,
Sounds
man.
perfect. Appreciate it.
Yeah, let's start like this. So pretend I'm somebody who knows very, very little about crypto. I just know you as a person and I care about you
Mm,
and I want to know what's going on. So I say to you, hey, JP, you know, I've heard you're going through something right now, something to do with
mm.
your company or project. What's going on?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it all starts, years ago, honestly, right? So Mantra is not a new project. We launched in 2020, DeFi summer, and we had a pretty quick rise and a pretty quick fall. We got listed on Binance in early 2021. Had a big run up after right around that time, and then a big downturn. And I think basically from that point onward until kind of the end of 2023, it was pretty much down only. And at that point, I think we were down maybe 95, 97%. Lowest point was about 1.7 cents a token
Wow.
in October of 2023. And then we had this, some would call it miraculous comeback throughout 2024, where we got institutional support. We continued to build
Yeah.
our
Hey,
mainnet
yeah,
blockchain.
sorry.
So so we had this effectively like miraculous comeback where everyone thought we were dead, and then we were able to kind of bring in this institutional support, launch multiple different testnets for our chain, and at the end of 2024, launched our actual blockchain to kind of become the leader in the RWA space, at least
Yeah,
from a token perspective.
yeah.
And we had this insane run. I mean, like from 1.7 cents in October of 2023 to a peak of about $9 in February
Yeah.
of 2025. So just crazy, crazy run. Um, and let this past weekend, um, we had a massive crash in our token price, where when I was in Korea, um, sleeping overnight, the token crashed, 90% in a day, not even a day, in like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Perpetuated by massive, short selling, um, perp selling, liquidations, and it's basically like we had a decent amount of attention because of the run, but we have 10 times the amount of attention because of the crash.
Sure.
So pretty much everyone in the crypto space knows our name now for not so positive thing. Um, and we're in the midst of picking ourselves back up and communicating what transpired and trying to get our name, reputation, and most importantly, our community members and token holders, um, you know, back on solid ground, and continue to push forward with what we've been building in this long term mindset anyway. So there's these like kind of two parallel things going on right now where there's an element of business as usual. We just need to continue executing and continue building and continue delivering. But then there's this other side which is like there is a massive issue, big incident. We need to fix this.
Mm.
What are the major things we need to do here? How do we communicate about that? What are the steps we need to take to reinstill trust?
Mm.
And how do we, do what's right for the community,
Yeah.
basically?
Yeah, okay. And look, JP, I understand the position that you're in right now. There's probably a lot of stuff that you can't talk about. Number one,
Mm,
because you're not prepared. This is all just happening, right? So it's like,
mm,
if I say to you, "Come on, JP, what's the plan?" You're like, "Dude, give me a couple days," you know? And then number
yeah,
two, you probably can't communicate some stuff because there's probably some sensitive things that have gone on
yeah,
that, you're not at liberty to sort of share right now. JP, I've been through this before, okay?
yeah.
I know. But what can you tell us? What can you say now about how this happened and where
Mm.
your head is at in terms of like what you feel like your obligations are to the Ohm holders and what you'd like to see in the for the future of Ohm?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess with the first part, we put out a kind of an incident or event statement of what we, feel like happened. And, initially when a token crashes like, that amount in a short period of time, instantly everyone's going to say rug, right? Like team sold, investors dumped, insiders, profited, extracted, whatever, right? And, obviously we categorically deny anything to do with that. And I think in the dust that's settled, people are starting to see, hey, this is very clear that that's not what happened. We've come out and actually last week we had already posted, tokenomics and kind of token wallet address transparency report the week prior. Um, and then our investors came out and basically did the same thing in the aftermath. So they could see that basically this was not influenced by any, team activities. There's been no profit taking by anyone on our investor or team side, and really what ended up happening was basically traders got blown up on exchanges due to violent market movements, and there was an excess of leverage in the system. But seems like the leverage was within the rules of the exchanges. So I think maybe the exchanges caught on too late and said, hey, I don't like this risk and we're going to unwind it. Usually you don't unwind that amount of leverage on a Sunday evening. You would do it in a more orderly fashion over time. But that seems to not be the case of what occurred. And there's been, pretty deep, thorough third-party analysis of exchange data of, what kind of went down and why this was how this occurred. But in the end of the day, we're still looking for answers and question, and visibility on more data about like, what actually happened here. Because, right now, I think the fundamental question that people aren't asking is like, who actually made money here? Because right now, it's for sure as hell not our community, our token holders. It's not us. It's not our investors. Honestly, I don't even think it's the exchanges, or at least not clearly, right? Like I think now there's big risk on a lot of these exchanges books. So who made money? And that's a question that I think only the exchanges can answer. So I don't necessarily anticipate that that's going to be coming to light to the public, that they're going to be sharing willingly anytime soon. But maybe there's a way that we can provide some transparency there going forward. And then I guess how I want to make sure that the community or the token holders know like that I'm committed, at least where my head's at is, this is wartime, right? Like we got to do everything we can, or I got to do everything in my power to fix this, make it right. I've voluntarily went out and said I'm going to burn all my team tokens, or basically just give them back to the community in some form or fashion. And if I do a good job in the future and we come back, or not if, when, then they can decide if I have earned it back. And I think anyone who's known me over the years knows that that's something I would do, in a heartbeat without really even thinking about it. Mantra is a 5-year-old token project, and I've already like, we can probably get into tokenomics a little bit later, but I'd already technically vested all my team allocation from the first time around, and I just gave it all back and revested everything, and I haven't ever really taken anything from building Mantra yet. And that's just not my motivation for what I do. And we've even had debates like, oh, if you burn your team tokens, you're not going to have any incentive. It's like maybe the incentive financially becomes less, but that's not necessarily the only incentive that I need in building something.
Yeah, okay, I appreciate that, but let's dig into that a little bit, because it's you're kind of portraying it now like like you haven't taken anything from Mantra, presenting yourself as this kind of like like that, like the Ecuadorian president who drives to to the work in a
Bukele?
Beetle. No.
That's El Salvador. Sorry.
Yeah. Or like, you have these famous, like Lee Kuan Yew,
Okay.
he was famous for, living a very humble life, despite having, But that doesn't really match you though, JP. Like at least from what I've
Yeah.
heard, you're quite a wealthy guy and you live quite
Mm,
comfortably. Is that fair to say?
sure.
Where
Yeah, I
did
mean, I've been in crypto for a long time.
yeah, and did some of this wealth come from Mantra?
I mean, I've been in crypto since like actively since like 2015, 2016, like basically right out of school.
Yeah.
I was working at a bank, but it was in, crypto related. And I was working at a bank in Shanghai, incidentally, and I, literally made less as an investment banker than my friends who taught English at the time. Um, you know, uh, uh, but crypto was actually what made me money. And I bought my
I
first
think a lot
Bitcoin
of
in
us have a similar story. Similar
yeah.
story.
I
Go
mean,
ahead. Yeah.
I I bought my first Bitcoin in 2013. I used to write articles for Cointelegraph, and they would pay me zero point 0.1 Bitcoin every article
Hmm.
over a certain amount of words. Um, I was very early in a lot of stuff. I mean, I was very early in Luna. Lost a lot of money in Luna, but made a lot of money in Luna. I was very early in Polygon or Matic. So I've made and lost a lot of money a lot of times.
Yeah. Sure.
And actually, like my first, like, so I made a loss. I've realized money, but I've also on paper not realized a lot of money as
Yeah.
well. So, I'm like, financially comfortable, to be honest. I mean, for most people, I'm good. Um, but like the real big stuff is all the long term stuff. So,
Yeah.
I think I see money and wealth as a way for me to pursue things that I'm interested in, but also as a way to be more efficient with my time, and really buy back time in many cases, and be able to be as effective as possible in doing what I want to do in life, which is build and work on interesting problems and build mantra basically. Like there's no separation between my work and my life. It's just one thing. And obviously capital and financial resources allow me to do that. But as an example, when Monta was going through the downturn in 2022 and 2023, I didn't pay myself for like what, almost 2 years. And I've done that multiple times. I've never taken a salary, right? Multiple times, right? It's part of the game as an entrepreneur, and I'm always happy to do that. I've sold all my possessions multiple times to be able to support you know what I'm working on, because it's all that matters to me, right? Other than my family, of course. Um, so, I'm not trying to go out of here and say that I'm like a beggar or a pauper or something like that. I'm definitely financially sound. But I would literally spend every single last penny of my net worth to continue doing what I do.
Yeah. I appreciate that, JP, and I think I'm hearing that from you loud and clear. Would you be comfortable giving some color? I don't expect you to share specific details, but you come
Mm,
across like a straight shooter to me. I
sure.
think it would be helpful to know. Can you share some color around how much of your wealth currently was extracted from Mantra?
Uh, Very little, to be honest. I mean,
Is that true,
I
JP? Because
yeah.
this, I'm not here to nail you. I saw your CoffeeZilla
No,
interview
no,
and,
it's
and
fine.
the others. These guys are so clearly here to like get you, right? That's not
No,
the
no.
frame I'm approaching this with. But I want to
Yeah.
give you an opportunity here to really walk the talk in terms of your integrity and
Yeah.
honesty, and tell me like, how much of the money that you've made has been from like external, investing activities. And look, you're the founder and
The vast
CEO.
majority on it. I mean,
Really?
let's put it this way. Liquid stuff, anything that I have liquid is all just from like honestly just being in crypto for a very long time.
Yeah.
Most of my I mean, I've even publicized my, Ohm wallet. I have, some Ohm that I have bought myself. I stake it. I earn staking rewards, just normal stuff. Um, the majority of my tokens I won't get until 2020. Not majority. Basically all of the tokens I won't get until 2027.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Or I
look,
mean, okay, not getting him even anytime now. I'm not getting him at all. But that's that was the initial that was the initial schedule.
yeah.
Um, 2027, and then for the next 2.5 years. But again, as I mentioned, like I made literally tens of millions of dollars on Luna. I lost a lot of money on Luna, but it set me up to be in a good position. Same with Matic and in other investments. Um, so and I've also like for example, like one thing I know I'll be just directly commenting on this. Like one thing that people have been poking at is like I like watches. And there's like this picture of me going around. I have like a particularly nice watch on, and um, I'll be very direct in addressing this. Like I bought watches the last time around with investments that I made, and I sold all of them to fund the business. And I mean, other than the one I got for my wedding, I wouldn't sell that one. Um, but I would do that again in a heartbeat, right? Like this is, I actually see being in crypto for so long, like again, having made legitimately millions and lost millions of dollars, tens of millions even, several times. Um, I don't see a marginal value increase in my like happiness and
Mm.
contentness in life when there's an extra zero on it. It doesn't really make a difference. But because of the kind of like lack of tangibleness in crypto, the one thing I have, been interested in is, other more tangible things like real estate and, watches and other things that are, fundamentally able to hold some value. I
Mm.
also like just enjoy you know, this type of business. I'm interested in art. I'm interested in other things. I'm just a curious individual in general. So I like to be able to enjoy those type of things as well as part of my life.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, brother. If you ask me, right? I mean, yeah, all good. A lot of these people hating would love to have some of that stuff, right? Okay, let me ask you this one more time then, and then we'll move on.
Sure.
Let's say that I was able to do a full audit of every all the value that you were able to extract from Mantra personally. Like I'm sure you said that you went for years without being paid. I'm sure there
Mm,
were other times where you have been paid, whether that's salary,
sure.
bonus, token rewards, or whatever.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I come across to you like a reasonable guy.
Sure.
If I was to be able to look at these numbers,
Mm,
um, can you say confidently that I would say like, okay, this is kind of reasonable, for a founder CEO?
100%.
Yeah, okay. Good. That's good.
100%.
Look, that's good enough for me.
I mean, to be honest, like
Yeah.
as an example, I still run a massive current account. I shouldn't even be saying this too much, but I still run a big current account with the business, like the company,
Okay.
right? Like
Yeah.
I don't even reimburse myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like legitimately, um, I mean, we have a fairly like standard way of paying at least C-suite. Like everyone's kind of aligned, and other than me, 'cause I'm significantly less.
Yeah.
I didn't give myself a bonus this year. I didn't give myself any sort of pay raise, even when we went up from. But we had a crazy year last year, right? And
Yeah.
it's just not something that I care about, honestly. And in fact, as an American, I try to intentionally not pay myself or give myself those type of things, just because from a tax perspective, it's all long term aligned for me.
Yeah.
So I would feel very comfortable in whatever sort of audit you would want to do on that one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know what to say, guys. I think he's telling the truth. I think, I just, it's at a certain
I
point, I think
appreciate it.
there's so much cynicism in our industry. And to be fair, I want to have due empathy for us as an industry because we've been so traumatized so many times by bad actors in the space who have either maliciously, ran scams, or in many
Mm,
cases through sheer just negligence or stupidity, or in some cases even
yeah.
like almost like when I look at SPF, like here's a guy who I've always thought like is almost like quite mentally unwell, and there's
Mm,
these things that come out and people get hurt, but
yeah.
you know yeah, I just hope that we can, as a community, broadly speaking, in crypto, I really need us to rise above some of this at some point. Okay, so JP, my next question for you then is, given what you shared, and look, just taking everything you're saying at face value, right? You're
Mm,
a guy who's really focused on building. You're thinking about the long term. You are an investor and player in the crypto space, but your baby is Mantra. You
yeah.
seem to really care about it very deeply. Um, what do you want out of all the sacrifice and stuff that you've made? Like, what does a happy end game look like for you in terms of what you're building with Mantra?
Um, a very tough question for me to answer. Um, and I think it goes back to just like my way of being, honestly, where I have this like hyper achiever slash hyper competitiveness that just goes hand in hand. That then, like, the minute I kind of hit a goal, it's instantly what's next.
Mhm.
So there's never an end because it's never enough. Which honestly is not necessarily a good thing. I think this is, well, there's a good element to this, and there's definitely a negative element to this, right? Because it does mean that like I'm always reaching for what's next and what's next and what's next and what's next, right? So, like, yeah, I mean, now it's, I think you'll see that even more, right? And I have massive ambitions for where this is going to go.
Can you
Um,
share? Can you
I'm
share
still,
like some of that? Just like what where you're at right now on that.
I mean, I believe, tokenization will change the world. I believe Mantra will be the, you know, business ecosystem that does it, right? And whether that's through our technology, our products, our distribution, our, network, like, that's like what I'm focused on working on day in and day out. And that's why, again, like, it just doesn't really matter whether we're not, as long as we don't, literally you'd have to like kill me to stop me from from working on this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I would run through a brick wall for Mantra and for the team and for our community. And I think a lot of people who know me well know that. And I think actions speak louder than words, and they've seen that, right? Because like when we were down 97%, we a lot of projects cut and run. Our founders cut and run, and they go on to the next one. And I could have said fuck this and go on and start a new thing. It would have been easier, honestly.
You could say it
um,
now.
yeah. Well, I don't want to. I would never. It like it's not even a thought. Um, and that is just like I'm obsessed with the all the things that I'm learning. I mean, I learned so much last year. It was a crazy, crazy year, and I'm going to learn so much from this as well. And I'm still a young guy, just turned 33, like a few a
Oh
few
my
weeks ago, like a
God,
few days ago.
it's painful for me to hear this. Okay, go ahead. God, yeah.
Um, and I'm anywhere but done with this story. So
Yeah. JP, what would you say to those people that say, you talked about, the importance of your products and, the value you're delivering to the ecosystem.
mm,
What would you say to those folks that say, but what products, right? I mean, Mantra,
mm,
you've
mm,
had a bunch of pivots, from where you started. You have gone through a couple different cycles, but
yeah,
you've never had a ton of TVL. As far as
yeah,
I know, it's not like you've had. As I don't know much about your products, but
mm,
you. I think it's fair for me to say that you haven't had tremendous traction that I know of with on the
yeah,
product side, right?
sure,
So I'm one of these people now saying, you know, come on, JP, how is this not a scam? You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like you're a totally narrative driven token. You know, what do you have to say to that?
Sure. No, I mean it's a valid question. A lot of people are asking it right now, particularly. I think. Well, I will say one thing. First off, when we did first launch Mantra, we did actually have a pretty significant amount of users and activity in TVL. So, like, I think we had nearly $1 billion of assets that were, on the platform at one point, back in the old days. Um, Now, we've been in this process of this new resurgence and like this new product, um, which is a blockchain, which is very different. And we've been focusing on, okay, how do we get more users? How do we get more activity? How do we get more applications? How do we get more TVL? How do we get more assets on the chain? And I think we started to make some pretty significant strides there. Actually, we had, nearly $100 million or we have, I should say, of assets on, or RWA assets on the chain right now across real estate and treasuries and a few other things. We were working on, and hopefully continue are able to do this, but a bit of a setback at the moment. Some pretty big acquisitions actually that were going to be quite significant. Um, we had just launched our ecosystem fund. We had a bunch of people building interesting stuff on the chain that were launching interesting, cool products. Obviously, that's taking a little bit of a hit, but we'll continue pushing. Um, and fortunately, we've seen that even with this kind of setback, like the people building on the chain, the ecosystem has been really supportive and understanding, and has doubled down really. So I think there's an element of, yeah, sure, there's still a lot of work to do in the ecosystem, but like, if you look at any project, any chain, like this shit just doesn't spring out of nothing, right? Like it takes a lot of time to develop this stuff. And, you know, if it was just an app or just a product, that's one thing. But when you're talking about like an actual blockchain ecosystem, that's like multiple products, multiple primitives, multiple teams, multiple different initiatives. It's like the difference between coordinating a business and a nation state,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we've kind of like graduated to that nation state building, um, and it's going to take some time. And now we've suffered a big setback, in our maybe we lost the battle, but we haven't lost the war. And we're going to keep pushing. So I welcome all constructive feedback and criticism and thoughts. And to be honest, a lot of it is probably warranted, but we were taking active steps to mitigate that and fix it. And we have long-term aligned investors who have been incredibly supportive with this, and in many cases have already reached out to either purchase more tokens or invest back into the business, or even say, hey, we're going to voluntarily extend our locking period for a few months,
Mm.
unlocking schedule, excuse me, just to give us time to take a deep breath, get our affairs in order, get back on it, and really start pushing again. And fundamentally, if they didn't see us working and building and executing and delivering stuff, why would they do that?
For sure.
Right. So I think that's what I would say to it.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, like, again, I have no choice but to just take everything you're saying at face value. But I
Yeah.
think, I mean, look, man, it's, you're absolutely, yeah, this the situation is pretty obvious to me, dude. Um, do you think that the current market cap for Mantra is a more realistic assessment of the value of the project than what it was a week ago?
I'm not sure if it's necessarily realistic versus fair. Like, who's to say how you value any sort of crypto project when it's
Sure.
really like there's no, I mean, frankly, for Mantra, I mean, one of the things that I feel very strongly about for RWAs is like, in order to get people to be comfortable with RWAs, you need to figure out the incentive mechanisms to get people on chain in the first place. And that is not necessarily like directly correlated with token value accrual today. So why are any RWA tokens valued at what they are? Or just crypto tokens in general? Like, is it a revenue multiple? Is it a TVL multiple? Like, what is the actual, mechanism that you're using to value anything?
Sure.
Why is Doge what it is? Why is like why is some of these Dino coins what they are?
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say? Um, so without kind of saying, is this a more fair value or not? What I will say is that for people who missed it out the first time, maybe it's a better entry. Maybe they feel more comfortable with the valuation.
Okay. Always be closing.
Well, but seriously, I mean, I've had people say that,
Yeah.
right? I've had people reach out about it. I say, hey, well, like, honestly, fundamentally, nothing has really changed. So if you're interested in Mantra when we were at $6, $7, whatever, and maybe you thought the valuation was a little rich, if we're still building, which we are, and if we're going to be dealing with this and taking steps, and they can see the grit and determination that the team has, why would you not believe that we are going to be coming back and say, hey, this is a better chance for me to get in because I missed it the first time when it was 70 cents?
Yeah. Okay. I feel you, man. And
Not financial advice,
no,
but
not
just
financial advice, but yeah, no, but I hear you. And as a matter of fact, I think this is probably a great moment for us to just take a quick break while I take a second to tell everybody about our esteemed sponsor, Cast.
The future of spending crypto is here. Meet the Cast Solana physical card, your gateway to seamless instant spending. Use your crypto instantly, no spend limits, and instant ATM withdrawals. Tap with Google Pay, Apple Pay, and shop at over 140 million merchants globally. Supercharge your rewards. Shop luxury, fly first class, or even buy a supercar with Cast. No limits, no restrictions. The physical Solana card is here. Secure yours today for just $100. Scan the QR code now and step into the future of crypto banking with Cast.
All right, back with JP Mullin, CEO and co-founder of Mantra. So, okay, I appreciate what you said. I can tell you that I personally know people who have bought Ohm now and have seen this as the entry point. So, yeah. Look, man. Good luck to them. Good luck to you. I want to dig in as much as possible to the what happened, and I know that you can't share that much yet, but maybe you could just speak in very general terms about what are the types of things that would cause a crash to this extent. And for those that maybe aren't familiar with the backstory, we're talking about a 90% crash. I think it went from roughly like a $6 billion FDV to now you guys are sitting at around 500 mil. Does that sound about right?
I think it was 6 circulating to,
Okay.
I want to say, actually, I'm not even sure. I can quickly check. 680 market cap.
Yeah. But look, the chart just looks like this.
Yeah, it looks
right?
crazy.
So what kinds of things can cause a price collapse like that? Why wasn't there more of a support level on the way down?
Yeah, I mean, so normally if this was only liquidations, right? You'd have this V where you have the buyback, right? Or not even the buyback, but just the rebound.
Yep.
But what we've seen was not only was it, there was like active sell. I mean, there's been some pretty good reports that have come out about analyzing kind of trading data and like how this all went down, and I'll share that with you so you can.
Sure.
There's one in particular by this guy TraderView 22, Dom is his name, I think, who's done a pretty good analysis of like, hey, where did this happen, and like how, like what really like caused this downfall of the token price. So obviously these are his particular thoughts based off his assumptions of the data that he's gathered, but it tends to align with our internal analysis as well as the kind of discussions we've had with some of the people who got liquidated, right? So effectively my read on it was there was some sort of, I don't necessarily want to call it an attack, but some sort of intentional maneuver.
It's an exploit. Can we call it an exploit? Should we?
No, I don't want to call it an exploit.
Okay.
Exploit from a crypto project perspective means someone got hacked.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay.
So for me, I would say there was an intentional maneuver to hammer the token price to then cause a potential liquidation event. And I think people could see that there was significant amounts of ohm being used as collateral for leverage positions, right? So what ended up basically happening was a very big player was able to push the price enough to hit a liquidation target, which then caused a seizure of collateral, which then was sold on the spot side. Like, if you look at the on-chain data, actually, tokens went from one exchange over the course of the last few months, one exchange particularly, to another one. And you can also see that one exchange changed their collateral ratios over the last few months on ohm, and the other one didn't. And then those tokens still sit on that exchange.
Yeah.
So who's sitting on it? The exchange.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And
And
that means that someone's holding the bag. And actually, I think the exchange here is probably, hurt too. So again, the question that we talked about is like,
Yeah.
who actually profited from this? But really,
is
if there
it
was
possible that nobody profited on this?
no way,
No.
someone was taking a directional bet aggressively to start it.
Yeah. What I'm picking up on, JP, and what I want to explore with you. I somehow have the feeling. I want to understand, and we can speak in vague terms because I acknowledge that that's probably for the best right now. But
Yeah.
can we just talk about what would be the motivation for the can we call this attacker? What do you what do you want? How do you want to say? The person who sort of initiated this.
Yeah.
What do you think the motivation is?
Well, someone definitely made money.
Sure. Yeah. So there's a financial
Yeah.
incentive, but well, there's so many ways to make money in this industry, dude. Right? Like what? And if this is a party that probably already has a tremendous amount of wealth, what is the motivation for saying, hey, I'm gonna make, a couple dozen bucks off of,
I think it was more than a couple
fucking
dozen.
JB. Yeah, sure, but whatever it is, but you understand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Like there's if I'm like some, if I'm some like trader, I think you get what I'm saying, right? Like,
Yeah. So I think there's maybe two things, right? One, the financial gain that we've seen, or that we're like, okay, we haven't seen it, that we've been able to kind of put together just by seeing what happened, is significant.
like 40, 50, what are we thinking?
No, hundreds of millions of dollars, legitimately. Legitimately, yeah.
Okay.
This is like not even this is not, we're not talking about life-changing money. This is like
Yeah,
game-changing type of money,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yes.
And so that's one thing. I think there was a significant financial incentive for this.
Okay. Big enough
One.
of a financial incentive that even an incredibly well-capitalized party would still want to do this.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Absolutely. So that's one. Two, I think honestly, I think because the token performed so well, particularly this year when everything was down, like it drew unnecessary attention.
Sure.
And you're gonna, I think that was probably a factor of the leverage in the system, honestly. But again, like, people ask me like, what could you have done about that? And like, there's not anything we could have really done about that, because in the end of the day, if the exchange rules are what they are, people have the ability to buy and sell and take leverage and do what they want to do within the rules of the exchange, in the terms of terms and conditions of the exchange. So, like, aside from like saying, hey, like, guys, maybe we could have not had this happen on a Sunday night on when everyone's asleep, and try to manage the risk on exchanges books or whatever in a bit more of a professional or orderly manner, so you
Courteous.
don't have to have this like, drastic unwind, which obviously hurt a shitload of people.
Hmm.
Um, you
That's what
know,
I, JP. This is what I'm trying to get at, and I wonder if this is something that even you have thought about. Um, because look, we're in crypto. We're all greedy. Like there's this joke,
mm,
we're in it for the technology, and I'm very much like you, dude. Like I have a passion for this
yeah,
industry. I love it. I would do it no matter how much money I had. I would be
yeah,
engaged with it. But I'm not just here for the technology. Like I
yeah,
like that
yeah,
we can make money in this industry, but
yeah.
there's something that feels like, and look, maybe this is just me coming in with my own bias, but like, there's something that feels a little personal about this situation to me.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Can you? Is there anything you can say about that? Like,
Um, I don't think it was honestly. I don't think it was necessarily personal against Mantra or me, at least. Um, I mean, I'm sure there's people out there who don't like me. Um, I know that.
Sure.
There's a lot of people in the world who don't like me. Maybe a few more right now than normal. But um, I don't think that's necessarily why this all went down. I do feel that there was, market dynamics that people took personal and took and people have egos and
Hmm.
particularly in these kind of whale games, um, it's PvP.
Yeah.
So someone got on the other side of something and wasn't happy about it and
Hmm.
clearly wanted to do something about it. So
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay.
um,
Look, JP. I think we've, frankly, I think we've covered this as much as we need to at the moment. Is there anything you want to share as we wrap up? Like, so I think, in terms of our audience for this podcast, we're still very small. So please, guys,
mm,
like and subscribe. Okay, and JP, if you wouldn't mind sharing this with your
of
community as
course,
well, I'd really appreciate it. But I think
absolutely,
the people who I think are really going to be looking at this is that Hong Kong and Singapore community.
great.
Is there anything that you want to take time to like just say to them directly now?
Yeah, I mean, particularly for that group, I think the support in the in the group has been really really appreciated. It definitely means a lot. Um, the amount of messages that I got from people I'd never talked to before was really appreciated. I mean, like heartwarming even. Um, and even in this craziness, there's been a ton of people who've reached out asking about the team, about me, and I it means really a lot to me. I think it's a testament to how we do things in life and how we treat people. Um, and I want to continue to own this situation, deal with it to the best of my ability, communicate as transparently as possible, um, and show, not just talk about, but show that we're going to take steps to fix this and we're going to keep building. And over time, I hope we'll be able to do this again for our second comeback.
Yeah,
Actually, I don't hope. I know we'll be able to do this again for our second comeback.
love that. Yeah.
And this time, the silver lining is, or a silver lining, I should say, is that on the second comeback, the whole world will not have an excuse to say that they missed out on Mantra
Yeah.
because everyone knows about us now. And that was one of the things where people were like, "Oh, I've never heard of Mantra. How the hell did it get in the top 20?" Particularly like I live in Hong Kong, spend a lot of time in Dubai. I'm here right now, and a lot of the Western world just didn't really get it. They never heard about us. We weren't that active, and they were starting to understand. But now everyone knows.
Hmm.
Everyone. It's not the reason that I want them to know us, and it won't be the reason that they know about us in the future.
Mm.
So I think that's the key message I want to get across. And again, thanks for giving me the time to kind of speak about this in a little bit of a different way than some of the other interviews I've done. I think there was a lot of candid and open conversations here, so I appreciate that as well. And thanks for everyone taking the time to follow along with this evolving story. I think it's definitely been you know um, at least interesting to watch from the sidelines, I guess. I mean, from the front row, it's been crazy, but I'm sure from the sidelines it is as well.
Yeah, it is crazy. But yeah, look, JP, I can't thank you enough for your time. I'm going to be headed to Dubai for Token. You around?
Nice. Yeah, we'll be here.
We catch
Absolutely.
up. You have an event or something there?
We've taken all events that we were meant. It's not the time to host
Yeah,
events and
yeah.
stuff
Okay.
for
Well,
us.
let's try to
I will
find.
be speaking at Token. We'll be doing a uh, you know, a tell all, or communication on stage
Yep.
there, which will be good, just to kind of get in front and share with everyone. Um, but yeah, so we're not going to be hosting anything.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. JP, thank you so much for your time. I'm looking forward to catching up with you when we get a chance. I think you're showing incredible bravery here. I definitely want to encourage you to take that time for yourself, and just keep yourself in the best condition that you can. And I wish you the very best in fighting the good fight, sir.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Means a lot.